So this video is going to be on two-step equations, and you should take a minute and take out a piece of paper if you already don't have one, and write some notes down because these will be a little bit more harder than the one step. So take a minute and take out some steps, a piece of paper, and when you're done, go ahead and press play again. So I'm assuming that you've got the piece of paper, and let's start off with some vocabulary. In this type of equations, we have what is called constants, and we have what is called the coefficients. Now, in the last video, I kind of established a little bit what was a coefficient, but I kind of want to get into a little bit more so you can tell the difference between both of them. So the constant is going to be, we'll get into it more in class as far as the actual definition, but for now, I want you to know that the constant is going to be any number that does not have a variable next to it, or a variable meaning a letter. Okay, so in this case, the numbers that do not have a letter next to it is this 8 and the 20. So these will be my constants. So what you should be writing down is constant, any number that does not have a letter next to it. Okay, so if you need to pause the video, go ahead. Okay, now the coefficient will be any number that does have a letter next to it. So a coefficient does have a letter next to it, like the number 2. Okay, so take a minute and write that down. Coefficient, a number that has a letter next to it. Okay, so now that you've written that down, let's go ahead and try to solve these. So in the last video, I told you to try to draw this middle line, or the line down the equal sign, to kind of represent a seesaw, and you should do that here as well. Okay, now the first thing that we're going to move over to the other side of the little seesaw will always be the constant. Okay, and in order for me to tell if it's a positive or negative, I always like circling. So I circle the number 8 because I'll show you why in a minute. So I circle 8, and it will be a positive 8. Okay. Now the reason why we're going to move the number 8 to this side of the equation, or the equal sign, is because we're trying to get x by itself. We're trying to remove all the numbers from the same side as this side. Okay, so we're trying to move all the numbers to this side because the x is on this side. Okay, so remember, we need to move all the numbers that are on the same side as the variable, or the letters, and move them over to the other side. Okay, so the first one that we do is always the constant. So we move the constant to the other side. Okay, so at this moment in time, we have a positive 8. So the opposite of a positive 8 will be a negative 8. And whatever we do to one side of the equation, we always have to do to the other. Okay? So when I take a positive 8, and I subtract 8 from it, or 8 minus 8, will be 0. So I get 0 here. Okay? This right here was not affected because we didn't do anything to it. So we bring it down. 2x is equal to 20 minus 8 is 12. Now it has 2x is equal to 12. Well, now this becomes a one-step equation. And in order for me to solve a one-step equation, I take a look at this right here, and I divide, because at this moment I have 2 times x, okay? And I do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So 2x divided by 2 and 12 divided by 2. That cancels out. I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite this over here. X is equal to 12 divided by 2, which is 6. I'm going to go ahead and move over a little bit because this is becoming a little bit messy. I'm going to rewrite this problem over here to the side. 3x plus 7 is equal to 19. Okay, let's do this one. Okay, so my first step is to draw the line down the middle. My second step is to establish which constant I'm going to move over. Okay, now the 7 is on the same side as the x, so I circle 7 and the sign in front of it. Okay, I always like to draw this little arrow so I know I need to do it to both sides. So the opposite of a positive 7 is a negative 7. So I do a negative 7 to both sides, or minus 7. 7 minus 7 is 0. This was not affected, so I bring it down. 3x is equal to 19 minus 7, which is 12. Now this becomes a one-step equation, and in order for me to get rid of the 3 from the x, I divide by 3. I need to divide both sides. So now x will equal to 12 divided by 3, which is 4. And there's an easy way to check, class. The way we do it is we go back to the original equation, which is, let me do it in a different color. The original equation is this, before we move the x. So now we know what x is. X is 4. We just solved it. Okay? So I'll go back to my original equation. 3x, well, we know what x is 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. Okay? Plus 7. I'm just following my equation. Plus 7 is 19. 19 is equal to 19. So that's the way we can check our work as well. If you didn't get it, it's okay. We'll go over it on Tuesday or the next class period. Okay, let's try this one now. Okay, so my first step is to draw the line down the middle of the equal sign. I look for the constant that's on the same side as my letter. Okay, the constant that is on the same side as the letter is this 5. And I circle the 5 and the sign in front of it, the minus sign. So now this becomes a negative 5 or a minus 5. The opposite of a minus 5 is a plus 5. If I do to one side, I have to do to the other. This was not affected, so I bring it down. 4x, keep your equals lined up to this line. 7 plus 5 is 12. Okay, now this becomes a one step as well. Okay, so in order for me to solve this, I need to divide both sides by 4. And so this cancels. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So we have 1x is equal to 12 divided by 4 is 3. I'm going to try one more example and it'll be over. Okay. It's a little bit different. Now I have a fraction as my coefficient, but it'll be okay. Let me just follow my steps that I've done so far. I'll draw the line down the middle of the equal sign. Okay. Now I have look for the constant that's on the same side as the letter, which is going to be 5 or negative 5 in front of it. Take the letter or the sign in front of it. I do the opposite, which is going to be positive 5 to both sides. Okay, this was not affected, so I bring it down. 3/2 x 5, negative 5 plus 5 is 0. 10 plus 5 is 15. Now in the first video, the one-step equation, I said if we have a fraction as a coefficient or the number in front of the letter, I always multiply by, that little dot means multiplication, by the reciprocal, and the reciprocal just means to flip the fraction. And so I circle this and I put it over here. So I multiply 15 by 2/3. Cancels out here, cancels out there. I bring down my x. X is going to be equal to 15 times 2. 15 times 2 is 30. Now I take 30 and divide it by 3, which is going to be 10. So x is 10. So there you have it. If you watch both videos, meaning the one step and this two step, when you walk by my classroom Tuesday morning or the next period, go ahead and whisper easy peasy. All right, so let me know that you watched my video. All right, thank you very much, guys. Peace.